Hello everyone, welcome to Achievers IAS classes. I wish you all a very happy Republic Day. Let's begin the current news analysis of the day, starting with the first issue, which is on the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. As you are aware, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code provides for a mechanism to liquidate stressed companies and thereby unlock the locked capital. The Supreme Court has recently upheld the legislation, saying that the law sends a clear message that India is no longer a defaulter's paradise, and the code consolidates various bankruptcy and insolvency laws under one umbrella. Highlighting the acceptance of resolution plans, the court said that 63 of the 80 cases have been resolved, amounting to around 30,000 crores from the resolution process. The court, however, partially read down Section 29 of the code, which disqualifies certain kind of persons from submitting a resolution plan. The court interpreted Section 29A to hold that a person who is otherwise qualified to participate in the resolution process can do so, and he or she cannot be deemed ineligible by a mere fact that the individual happens to be a relative of an ineligible person. The court also upheld certain relaxations given to the micro, small, and medium enterprises from the insolvency proceedings by highlighting that the MSME sector forms the bedrock of our economy and stringent restrictions through the IBC would result in the untimely liquidation of MSMEs and thereby adversely affect them. In this regard, the court said that the relaxations offered to the MSME is a proof that the legislature is aware of the anomalies within the code and is taking steps to rectify the same. The next issue in news is regarding the 103rd Constitutional Amendment Act, which provided for 10% reservation in government jobs and educational institutions for those belonging to the economically backward sections in the unreserved category. The Act amended Articles 15 and 16 of the Constitution by adding clauses, thereby empowering the government to provide reservation on the basis of economic backwardness. This has been challenged in the Supreme Court, and we have to wait and watch if the constitutional amendment will withstand the judicial scrutiny, as the Supreme Court had ruled in the Indira Sawhney case that economic backwardness alone cannot be a criteria for reservation to any community. But in the present context, there is a constitutional provision, and we have to wait and watch for the Supreme Court's ruling in this regard. On that note, let's move on to the next issue, which is regarding the Jaipur Literary Fest, where the issue of SARC was discussed by former diplomats of the grouping who discussed the way forward for the association. It was highlighted that the South Asian identity faced the challenges by the 1947 partition, the internal politics of each country, and the involvement of US and China in the region, which could be resolved if the negative discourse on the region was driven out of the public domain. The experts were of the opinion that the region's future would be in cooperation among the 8 SAARC nations and strengthening of bonds with emphasis on common ethnicity, culture, traditions, languages, and religions. The panel felt that the focus of the South Asian discourse needed to shift away from the perception of India's dominance in the region, and SAARC could play a meaningful role as there were no security and financial dilemmas among the member countries except between India and Pakistan. In this regard, they highlighted the role of SAARC in the changing geopolitical scenario and stressed the need to step ahead of use of the soft power and bring the South Asian nations together in order to ensure regional cooperation. On that note, let's move on to the next issue, which is regarding the political crisis in Venezuela. Venezuela has been in an economic and political crisis since the oil prices started falling from the year 2014, as it was over-reliant on petroleum export and was borrowing heavily to fund its overspending on social welfare programs. The country has plunged into a deeper crisis when the head of the National Assembly declared himself as the acting president, thereby challenging the authority of the country's president, Nicolas Maduro. This was recognized by the US, Canada, Brazil, and a host of other Latin American countries, which led to the Venezuelan president cutting off diplomatic ties with the US and ordering the American diplomats to leave within 72 hours. This is worrisome because at least 90% of the people in Venezuela are now below the poverty line, with an inflation forecast to touch 10 million% this year, with severe food and medicine shortages. The economic crisis has triggered a massive migrant crisis with nearly 3 million people fleeing the country. In this background, the efforts from the opposition party to overthrow the current government has been suppressed using brute force, and also the main opposition party had boycotted the last year's presidential election, claiming that the election was not free and fair. In this regard, President Maduro shares a lot of blame for the mismanagement of the economy, but forcibly removing him from power may destabilize the country further. Therefore, it requires a coordinated international effort to restore some degree of economic and political normalcy in the country, and in the long run, it is up to the people of Venezuela to decide on their political fortunes. The final issue news today is regarding the conferring of Bharat Ratna, which is the nation's highest civilian honor, on former President Sri Pranab Mukherjee, along with social activist Nanaji Deshmukh and Assamese musician Bhupen Hazarika. The Prime Minister has highlighted the outstanding contribution of the awardees in different walks of life, like the contribution of Sri Pranab Mukherjee in the nation's growth story, that of Sri Nanaji Deshmukh in rural development, and Sri Bhupen Hazarika, who popularized Indian musical traditions globally. On that note, I'm wrapping up today's news analysis. Do like, share, and comment to support this initiative. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.